All right, recording now. Uh,
Alright.
yeah. Hi everybody. Uh, another stream. Hero BJ, take it away. There you go.
Alright, it works. Hey everyone, I am your hero teacher for this summer semester, BjsPanther, or by Barry. I'm here to talk about Heroes post Battle of the Legend Glorious Gallery, the format, which hasn't changed much except we just get Fountain. And my thoughts of Heroes now post us getting Fountain and the TCG. Content will be very TCG focused. I'll focus more on like matchups, potential deck lists, and then we can go over some like videos of content from like Omni and JDVR, and then we can do like combos if you want to, and then we'll have a Q&A session. So yeah, so it'll just be overview of the deck, how I feel about it in the current meta, and then we'll go over some videos to watch. So we will begin. Yeah, so Battle of the Legend, Glorious Galleries. It had a bunch of support for decks. Zagruni, Tellarknight, Shaddoll, Stinkron, Redrick, Archfiend, Onomat, Endymion, Dark Lord, Predator Plant. Um, Nothing really changes the meta per se. Um, the cards suck. The only one that had a chance was like the Endymion, but I heard from like players who wanted to play it, they're missing a card that they needed for that. So unfortunately, that deck is not as powerful as they want it to be. But yeah, nothing really changes of like the top decks based off this set. Yeah, it varied. Basically that was the one they were needing to like make the spell caster slop deck that I heard was producing the OCG. Um, yeah, basically Dark Lord. A lot of these decks are straight. All these cards help you play, like Red Trigger RSP won that YCS Columbus. That recent YCS. Straight to the Genesis format for most of these decks. For our deck, we got a nice little support here, Fountain. I've been waiting for this one. Fountain is another addition to the Massacre lineup. Basically, what this card does is if you reveal this card in your hand, you specify any hero monster, including yourself, in defense position. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect or to activate a card effect, you can set one match from your deck to grave. And you can use each of these once per turn. So it allows you, the benefit is to extend further with hand as another body, or if you have the like normal summon monsters to summon that, as well as like if you use it for effect or gets this or send the graveyard by card effect, um, you can just set the mass chain from grave, um, from deck or grave, so that you can just activate it to get the deck law on your opponent's turn. And kind of the benefit, like I said, is like Fountain provides like a great plate in a drill and Lockbird. You have is a primary counter to getting two Dark Law on your opponent's play. It actually came up to me last yesterday for locals. I played against a cool two player. They throw me, and I had Fusion Destiny, and I like popped my fountain to get to Dark Law. So they're able to like get to Dark Law DPE under draw with Fusion Destiny. And so in this format where like some of the best decks suffer greatly from Dark Law, it's a really good way to enable you to consistently get to Dark Law. Um, it gets better access to Thunder Giant going second because now you have extra extension. You can use like your plays earlier to get to Thunder Giant to OT to wipe the board, and then you can extend further with your Fountain for like a normal Stratos or a Vion to help you push through for play to win the game. It also really good as like an additional name for contrast hero chaos. So now it's easier for you just to like you could use Furnace now as an extender for your plays because now it's like you don't have to worry about Furnace getting banished because you can use Fountain and like Crow to help you banish it or poly it. Use poly to get the contrast hero chaos. And then it gotta go to the other point that like Dust Crow has another target for Fountain. So if you open up Furnace, Dust Crow is not like a break card or like a card of minimum value, you can like now use Dust Crow to search Furnace. If you I mean to search Fountain if you already have Furnace. And then also if you want to, there is some synergy with Dugaris for timeless or other rank um generic rank 4 plays where you can like play through interruption through Dugaris either by using Fountain as material for the effect Reborn or summon back Stratos. Um, so that way you can either with that card you can reborn of either Vion or Stratos, and then you can like use Fountain's effect to like set a mass chain. So it gives you a lot of versatility, um, a lot of versatility into playing some rank 4 plays. Alright, so now we'll go into like the meta. With the current meta, there are like 5 decks I think are like really relevant in the format. They're like the top 5 decks. I don't think anything changes as much with, like I said, with the new Battle of the Legend set. So like the top 2 decks are like Cool Tunes and Branded. I think from playing, I think heroes have a very favorable matchup. I played enough like regionals and local events where if you end on Dark Law DPE and they don't have interruption, a Cool Tunes cannot beat that. You have to force them to go to B2B, and then by that point they go to B2B. You should have enough monsters in your graveyard with DPE, not for them to run it over. So it so like so in a position where like they really don't have like if they can't imperm crown the Dark Law, they're gonna waste so many resources to try to out it. And then like if you have to, you have the DPE pop, the pop the B2B. It does. If they have Harmonious, it can. But that's what I mean. Like it has to have. They have to have non-engine. They have like it's pure like Cool Tunes. Cool Tunes cannot beat this, as well as like you don't even have to do anything. You literally could just sit on Dark Law. What I do now, I realize I could just sit on Dark Law and let them commit to out it. So there's nothing they can do to out it. Unless they have like say a tuner engrave like Ash, then they could like use RS to negate. But that's very niche. But beyond that, like they can't do anything into Dark Law. Dark Law DBE. You just sit on it and play. Going second, I've seen the deck is not really hard to go into if you open them really well. They really only make like Zaylin and maybe like 2 negates, and then they'll interrupt you. If you open up like, for example, like a Bell or Ash or Droplet into their board, like going second, with like good engine, it should be enough to like win the game. And even still too, if you are able to end on the board of like, say you can't kill them, but you end on Dark Law, DPE, and like Contrast, it's gonna hard for them to play into that on like their turn again. Because again, Dark Law shuts them off from like getting into their graveyard effects. To their like graveyard effects. So they can't really extend further. So I think out of like these two, I think Cool Two I think is like, even though it's the best deck, I think that's like the easiest deck for us to manage in the meta. Because once you get Dark Law on the field, it's really hard for them to really play through that. And they play basically a bunch of hand traps. They'll play a lot of the board breakers. So like, if you open up a good hand, you can eat a lot of the 1-for-1 hand traps. Now, if you open up mediocre, and then they most likely have enough hand traps to stop your play. That's where it kind of gets bad. Is like, if you have bad hands or mediocre hands, they will have enough hand trap to stop you from playing. So, you know that would be the case. For Branded, it's I think fine going first or second. Again, full board, they can't really stop you unless they open up Super Poly. You put them in a very limited space to make a play. Because White Albion have to send from graveyard for cost, Fallen of Virtue to send for graveyard for cost. So you shut them down from a lot of their plays, and if you really cut them off early from their graveyard, then like they really can extend further. The only way they can really out the plays is if they have Branded Fusion, but you can just negate Branded Fusion with Contrast Hero and you're just good to go. Like once you negate Branded Fusion, it's really, or the fusion monster named may try to get to like Mara Jade, is GG's. Um, Going and then also going first, if you side in Dark Angel full board, that that is enough to stop them because they will have to use Cartesia to fuse it, and you can just negate it with Cartesia with Contrast Hero, and then you force them like they can't use Branded High Spirit, Super Poly, Fallen the Virtuous. Like it's going to be very hard for Branded to make a play under Dark Angel if you have like that plus like Dark Law and DP or something like that, or in contrast. Going second is doable with a strong engine, but it is, you have to know how to like play around like Retribution, Mirror Jade, Fallen of Albaz. Like it's really gonna be like how to like use your engine in certain ways to play around the interruption. Um, and it helps a lot having like Ash Blossom or Ghost Spiller Forbidden Droplets to negate their monsters, to stop the summon of Outback, they're gonna make the Dogma card to like board wipe you and then shuffle back your graveyard card. So um it's, it can be like tough if they like, if you can't OTK them, they will generate enough follow up for you to generate enough follow up to beat you in the clapback. So it's very important. Like yes, talked about Thunder Giant, as well as a good option to like break their board on their turn and OTK them, because with Branded, if you really don't break their board, unless you find a way to like make Dark Law, DPE contrast and stuff, it's gonna be hard to beat them on their turn, on their follow up turn. And then against the other two that are really good are Mitsu and Doomsy and Mitsu. I would say Doomsy is one of our toughest matchups because Doomsy is not really affected by Dark Law because they destroy, they're like Unchained. They, if they get destroyed, they get their effects off. The only caveat is with Dark Law is that pendulum monsters, when they get destroyed, they're banished. So, and a lot of the Power Patron cards, um, they have to be sent out to the face-up extra deck to be use their effects. So, like, if you cut them off from their Dark Law, they can't use the power. The pendulum monsters can't be used to extend further. But with this deck, they have the cards do so much. Like they have a pendulum monster power Doomsday card that you can pop it, and then one card you control non-targeting. They have the equip spell that you can like equip it to a monster on the field and then destroy it, so you can equip it to Dark Law. So one of the issues is like you're gonna have to really time like your DBE, your contrast, and favor contact to hit them at the right spots to slow them down, because they're almost limited heroes, but they have very versatile ways to get to their plays. So you're gonna have to really monitor how they play. Where I feel like in this build, like your destruction effects, like DPE, Wingman have a lot more priority. Um, in this matchup, where you really want to pop like their monsters, not after they search, but like before they get into their XYZ plays, because their XYZ monsters have protection effect from card destruction. So like really hard to destroy them at that point. So this is a deck mostly that I've won because I've had a little extra non-engine to help me play through it. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one. You're gonna have to like navigate to play with your interruptions going first, and then going second. It's like if they have their board, it's just unwinnable if you don't have like board breakers like two, because they end on like Varudris, Regulus, one of their Doomsday monsters, and then like the trap card that says you can't search like Colossus. If they have that and you don't have a way to out the negates and like their back row, you are not winning that game. However, if you do break it, then they have no follow up. It's easy to kill them. So This is one like, do you have the out or not for this deck? And then Mitsurugi is is tough but beautiful only because Dark Light doesn't affect it that much. Again, another deck that plays Shifter. This deck is a little bit easier though, in the sense of like you use both Contrast Heroes to negate their ritual spells. They really don't have any plays, and you can also use Dark Light or rip cards from their hands. Um, Going second is a little bit tough with Engine alone because they have like the trap cards and negate. They have their Raigeki with the Automata card. So like they can do enough on your turn to like stop you from OTKing you, and because they also have those like their level 4 monsters provide battle or card effect protection, it's hard to finish them off. So like if you really can't kill them in that turn, usually like you have to commit to killing them, and if you don't kill them they generally open up enough follow-up to kill you on your next turn. That's the thing with that deck, custom under Brandon, where it's like you really prefer to just beat them, OTK them, because the way they play, especially you don't open up like non-engine or like you don't open up droll, they will have enough follow-up to kill you on your following turn. And then lastly, we have like Elf Note and Sky Striker. I think Sky Striker is a decent matchup. I think full board enough to beat them going first. I think even if half board having Dark Law Contrast Hero, because they have the negate card Widow Anchor. So if you can negate the Widow Anchor, I think you should be in a good position because like you banish their spell cards, they can't really recover them. Dark Angel is amazing against this deck. Like if you Dark Angel them, they really don't have a play. You know, they might make a link too, but like in general, like with Dark Angel, if you cut them and if you pop their world like the array, it's hard for them to play. And then going second, you should have enough gas to push through their board to OTK them. It's not the only time I really lost this deck is like if they open up hella non like board breakers, draw, cards that really stop you from playing. But engine wise, I don't think it's difficult to play against. And then Elf Note is great going first. Dark Law destroys the hell out of this deck. This is another deck like Dark Law DP kills it. Because they need to use their graveyard to get for effects or for plays. Um, and so like opening up Dark Law prevents them from like really going to their board. And they usually try to run over for Dark Law, but if you have DPE, doesn't really matter. Going second can be a little bit challenging. I have seen different variations of Elf Note, Feast of Elf Note, and some other single based like more of other single cards. And like the deck can put up a really strong going second board. That and they also have that trap card where they can like negate forbidden droplets. So it's a deck where if you go second and they make full board, it is very Rhapsody, yeah. Rhapsody, it's very hard to beat unless you open up multiple board breakers. It can be tough to beat that going second. And I think that is it for the presentation aspect. I'm gonna go more into like the deck list and the consistency, but before I do that, do anybody have any questions about what I discussed with the matchups in the deck? Let's see. Stop sharing. Go to the book. Alright, I'm gonna share my screen for the deck list. So, me and Omni worked on like looking at different deck lists, um, like different builds because now you have so many different engine options with engine pieces for the deck. You're very versatile on what you're able to do. Um, and so it just depends on like how do you want to play it, like pros and cons to each one. So like the 43 card, this example, we were thinking that like if you're playing 43, you prioritize kind of seeing much more of your non-engine and qual and like certain non-engine. So like you want to see the Ash, the call by for like Fua, and then like call by for Draw. You want to see more of your Molcharmies. You want to see Droplet. So like the 43 is more of like you want to see more of your non-engine pieces. Um, if you do play 43, we're thinking like with Fountain now and Ejector, you really don't need the Vision Hero engine to really get to your plays. You could use like Blaze Band or like the with Furnace and Fountain and Mask Hero cards to get you to Poly and Mass Chain. So it's not really that relevant to play you don't have to play uh a Ferris um the Ferris engine because like with a 43 card deck, even though you open up your starters more, you open up more of your bricks and what your engine your non-engine requirements are not starters. So it's just we think about just slim the deck down in a way where you play the quote unquote bricks you need and then just cut some of the stuff you like the bricks you really don't need. And so with Fountain we were like not as necessary to play the Vision Hero package. Because I feel like you'll just open it up more. So it allows like the deck to be a little bit more consistent where you can cut like one Garnet and still be able to make your full combos and plays. And then this deck list, we were saying with the number like Omni made that post about the consistency rate, opening up like cards, one like the options percentage of opening up like a playable hand, where you can end on like Dark Law, DPE, favorite contact, or like Dark Law, DPE, favorite contrast. So like yeah, basically trading increase for Dolphin. Um, because even though like Dolphin is a brick, it's a more playable brick. Like yesterday, I played at regionals and I drew both my Dolphin and Ian Shuffle with like Mally, and I just did like Dolphin Mally, look hand, rip hand trap, shuffle the Dolphin, shuffle Dolphin for Stratos, and then pop the fuck off. So it's like yes, it's a brick, but it's like a more playable brick. So, um, that's why I prefer it. In the build, especially for 43. And then and then going back to like the percentage wise for this deck, we saw that like there's an 89% chance of opening up like a playable hand, like a 1-2 card combo that allows you to make like a full board. It was like an 89% chance of having that happen. And then with like non-engine, it was to open up. And by non-engine, we meant like Fua, Droll, like droplets, like non-engine that were like high value hand traps and board breakers. With 43, it's like a 71% chance of drawing those cards. And so now we'll go to the 50 build. This is the one that I'm playing for this for that I'll be playing. Alright. So this is the 50 build. So as you can see, the thing that's added is the Evil Hero package. Um, I was so for me, so when I played my regionals, I lost the two games that I lost. I opened up some weird ass hands of like one ofs and stuff, and I was like, and then from I was influenced from like Nathan's 60 card list where I was like, huh. I still want to see a non-engine. I still think like cars like the Fuas, the call by, the Ash are still important to see. I do want to increase the engine starters. I can have to dilute the deck a little bit from seeing some of my one ofs and have more playable hands. Cause like in Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like at this point with how fast the game is, consistency matters a lot, really a lot. So you want to have the ability to have more playable hands. Even if it's mediocre, I still want to be able to play. Because then it's like, say they don't have non-engine or mediocre non-engine, you can still be able to play. And with heroes, you can turn, especially with all the new support, you can turn mediocre hands still to full combo uninterrupted. So one of the things was like I decided I wanted to play 50 because I feel comfortable with 50 with like more engine starters. Playing that with the non-engine requirements that I have. So I debated between like the Evil Hero engine and Vision Hero engine, and then like for me personally, I chose the Evil Hero, which was kind of, I was like, damn, I hate this engine package, but it's actually not bad now. The Fountain Ejector. The reason being is like every one of those cars are playable. Like if you open up a Dust to Gold, you get to Evil Assault, you get to Prism, or if you open up Evil Assault, you can get the Prism. The only time that it's like t- unfortunate or like bricky-ish or bad is when you open up like Prism of either Evil Assault or Dust to Gold, because that means the engine is like kind of like that. You lose the value of the Evil Hero engine. But I liked it as like another push, another way to start your plays. Um, as well as like Evil Assault is any card, not a hero card. So it makes it a little bit more playable than the Vision Hero line. Because if you open up Ferris, you really can't make a play. Yeah, basically more live and draw increase. Um, you can like Evil Assault with a Charmy going first. Damn, that's crazy. You just discard the Charmy, summon out Prism, and then go full. You can go full combo. So that's why I played it, because I was just like, the deck maybe not have the same resiliency and versatility as the Vision Hero deck, but with all the new other support you have with Fountain and Ejector, um, it was like that covered up a little bit of that resilience, and I rather just have a more consistent deck. So that's why I took out the Ferris package. Again, you're more willing and welcome to use the Ferris line. I don't think it's terrible. I just prefer to try to make my deck consistent as possible, especially if I'm going to like a competitive tournament for 8 rounds. I want to make myself playable. And then also a benefit I want to add before I jump to the 60 deck, as I was playing a lot recently, um, especially with adding Blazeman now. One of the biggest advantages of the deck now is there's so many ways to get to your plays. Your opponent, unless they really have a good hero player, will not know how to hand trap you. Your versatility in heroes is your biggest strength against a lot of players. So, for example, if you versus a Cool Tune player and they see your hand and you have like Hero Lives, Ejector, E-Call, Ash, Fusion Destiny, they don't know what the fuck to hit. So like that's really what like is a benefit of like the way I build but like this deck is versatility. Is because your versatility to get to your plays will be a big advantage, because there's now multiple ways to get the poly. There's multiple ways to get the mass chain. So like depending on your hand, unless they have like Droll or Fuwa that limits you from making plays, or like a floodgate card going second, your ability to like pivot your deck where you need to go, or like pivot your play style to get to poly and mass change is a huge advantage, because your opponent will not really know how to hand trap you to stop you from playing. And if they waste all those hand traps and you end on full board, they're going to lose most likely. So that's also a reason why I kind of the 50 I built the deck that way, is for to enhance the versatility of heroes at this point and make it harder for like a choke point, or make it more confusing for players to know where to hand trap. Because most of them think about is like the Vision Hero package, like, oh, I just gotta imperm the Increase or I imperm the Vion. Now they're like, shit, I don't know what to hit. I hit your hero lives. I asked your hero lives. You had ejector. Like it makes it more difficult for a lot of players to really know how to hand trap your deck. And then for this one, for percentage wise, for like playable hands, we saw that the 50 card list had a 93% chance of drawing like a 1 card or 2 card combo that can be playable. And then for the non-engine for consistency, it was a 72%, 73% chance. Reason being is like I added more non-engine to the deck, so I added more like Fua, Droplet, or Crown. And if you add like more, again, more non-engine, high quality, you'll see more. So it made it a little bit better chance of seeing the non-engine. And then the 60 card build. This is not an exact one for one from Nathan, but kind of idea. If you want to like max out on consistency. Oh, plasma? Not really. You don't. I honestly, you don't need plasma to win in this format. Also, with like cool tunes and stuff, a lot of these decks they can do shit in grave that can like out the plasma. So I really, and for it to cost like 3 monsters to make, I really don't care for it. Like people have like crown. Well, not crown, like droplet, fallen of virtuous, all types of different stuff. I just like, I really, I don't think it's as worth it. And in that too, spare mode. Uh, but oh, but yeah. So I don't see plasma as like worth this deck for the cost. Um, I think it's a lot better in the Destiny Hero build. You know, when we have that conversation. But like an Omni Hero build, I don't think you need Omni Hero is not worth. However, what is worth in the side though is Dark Angel. I think Dark Angel is relevant this format if you want to play it. But I did test it out, and it has won me games on the spot. So I don't think. I think if you want to have a Destiny Hero Floodgate, Dark Angel is the Destiny Hero Floodgate for this format, and you can legitly make if you open up like a good hand, so it's like a board breaker format. If you open up a good hand, you can get to like Dark Law, Dark Angel, and like the board. So I'm not gonna share if it's 60 card build. This if you want to like max it out. Like you could literally max out Stratos, Vion, E-Call. You could do like this is an example of like you have the ability if you want to in 60 to max everything out if you want to play. You really get to your engine pieces. I do think if I was playing between 60 and 50 and 60, I would play the Vision Hero package just to have more starters. Um, but yeah, like um you have like again if you want to play that to make it consistent as possible or have more plays you can max out the hero cards um to be able to play with the high count, and this is more of just like gas. You just want to see as much gas as possible, push to your board, your opponent's board, or play going first to see your engine requirements so you can play against your opponent. So um this is the option if you really want like to see more engine and have a little bit more push with the deck if you want to include the Vision Hero package. And then for this build, this one is like we saw percentage wise off of this deck. The consistency for this was like 95% chance to see a playable hand of a 1 card 2 card combo. Um and then for like non-engine though, we saw with a similar same on non-engine, it's like 65% chance to see the high impact hand traps. Um so in this case it would be like you'll see less of the high impact ones. So technically if you want to counter into it, you could play some of like the bells, the imperms and nibs and stuff. You want to do that. Um but you will have to bank on maybe cutting some of the engine requirements down to see more combinations like 1-for-1 hand traps and non-engine. But I don't even think in this format like hand traps are like really good unless you're a deck like Cool Tune or Yummy Fiesta. We can play a bunch of non-engine and you have a bunch of 1 card combos for you to hand trap your opponent to death and then have 1 card to pop off your play. So um, preferably I don't think that's the way to go, but this 60 does provide you a lot of consistency. Uh, and that's why with the numbers, why I chose 50, because I feel 50, I like the percentage of like 93% to open up like a playable hand. And I like that I had a 72% chance, like 73% chance of opening like one high impact hand trap. Because with this format, I was like, as long as I open up a really good, like a good hand with like one or two good quality non-engine, you're more likely or most likely able to play through most of the meta decks and beat your opponents. Especially for me, I want to see like the cross out, the call by, the accusation of crowd. I want to see more of that non-engine requirements. So that's why it's like certain non-engine. So that's why I chose to have 50 for me. But we're at a point with heroes, especially once we get like Karibo and the Clay Guardian, there's so many options to play heroes at that point. It really just becomes like personal preference on what you want to play and how you want to play the hero deck. And it'll be like a defendable choice of like, I might not agree with it, but I'll be like, this doesn't make sense. It is playable. Go play it. You know, it's okay to play that. Especially like with Increase with Clay Guardian. Now it's like if you open up Increase, Poly, and Shadow Mist or Ejector, you can still turn that to Clay Guardian, and that's still full combo. So, uh, I don't want to look at this as like, oh, you have to play a certain way, but there are just pros and cons to each one, and you got to decide what are you comfortable with, especially at what level you want to play, for how you want to build the deck. But now I'm gonna go into like going over some replay videos of like well, I'll pivot. Do y'all want to see replay videos of like Omni or Jaden of how they with the engine how they play against certain decks, or do you want to go over like combos of like what you can do with like Fountain? Okay. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. All right, I'm gonna show a replay. I'm a couple from Omni. But while I do that, set that up. Do anybody have any questions? The two poly is basically because you use one poly mainly with for Thunder Giant. You use one poly with Blaze Man. If you have the right hand, you can just make like Thunder Giant. Such a good. It's a nuke. You have to respect. And also in this format with like cool tunes is become more important because like they have that card Q where if you use for synchro material, it can like look at your top cards and banish a card. So like if you played one and they open and they hit see the poly, they're gonna banish it, and then you're in a really fucked position. So two poly and that also is played because you need to blah 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 play you don't want to lose both polys because then it'll be hard for you to play. Yeah, basically. Aqua Neos is not required if you don't want to play it. Now, for me personally, I played it. So I do the bullshit of I normal summon Aqua Dolphin, look at their hand, and rip a card. I don't do it. The funny thing is, I don't do it for Nib. I do it to see what board breakers they play, and I will pivot either to doing the full combo, or I'll just pivot to Dark Angel. Um, so I like it for that reason because I like the versatility of looking at a hand and ripping a card, and then I like in some plays the ability to summon it and then rip another card. Um, because I've seen in this format where like beyond like cool tunes, a lot of decks don't play a lot of like hand traps to slow you down beyond like the high impact ones. So for certain, so they're gonna play Super Poly, Spear Mode, Lava Golem, all that stuff. So for me, I'll do the play I learned from Jaden BR, where you like shuffle in like the Neos, not Neos, the Shadow Mist and Aqua Dolphin. And then when I get a Infernal Devicer, I search Aqua Neos to get it, and then I normal summon it. And then I will look at their hand and see do they have Lava Golem, Spear Mode, Super Poly, and then I'll pivot my plays around that. So that's why I like the fork. I've done that consistently enough, and that has like won me games. Especially too at that point against certain decks. Like once you, the way I ended is like I end on like Dolphin, Devicer, Sunriser. That like you have enough attack points to hit a lot of the starters out their hands, and then like what I do then, and I only really do it when I have like Mally, is I'll engrave. I'll use Mally. I'll use summon out Mally, then I'll use Aqua Dolphin and Mally to make Cross Crusader, and then I'll use Then from there, depending on what I saw in their hand, it will dictate what I search with Cross Crusader. That's how. That's so. I liked it. The Aqua Dolphin rip and like has come in quite like. I did first. I thought it was gimmicky. Then I like fuck. Let me try it out, and like it has like won me enough games to be like, okay, I respect it. So if you want in this format, I think it's a lot more doable to do than I would say if it was like a more hand trap heavy format. Oh, and I made a good point too. If you don't see him in chat, with 50 and 60, siding patterns are a lot easier. When you do 43, it's a little bit tight with like siding patterns where you might have to side out more non-engine to I mean not more non-engine, more engine cards to play more of a non-engine you need. For me, when you play like 50, I take out maybe like Rhoda, one of the Ecos, um and then maybe like Ash. So like you have more flexibility to play to take away more like not like because you play more engine, you're not as like stingent on like what to do with what to take out for your deck for non-engine for siding patterns. So it does give that like obviously good flexibility as well. Of it's easier to like side in and out cards when you run a higher deck count. Okay. So this is a video I want to show of like Omni playing against Cool Tunes, and I think this is him going second. Um, and also Omni for these replays. If you want to speak and provide extra context, you're more than willing to.
Bro, you're starting in the middle of the duel though.
Oh no, this is Cool Tunes, but the way it was like the cliff note, the timestamp. It's kind of like oh, and then after the end of the duel, so I'll start right here. So the only thing different is a little bit older than what the current meta is. So most decks are not playing. Most Cool Tune decks are not playing Red Nova. Um. So more. So like in general, what would happen is they would summon like Rico, and then they would just like do that. Look at your hand, um, and insert something. It'd be like, and then they would. um, they'll look at your hand. So like in generally, let's see what they're gonna do here. They make Zaylin. What do they make? Oh, RS. Okay. This is how an example of like how you can use your engine time around. I'll do a good job of like playing through interruptible cool tunes. So they can RS to negate the Ian shuffle. Okay. You can do clip, summon out Zaylin. And then use clip to banish Aqua randomly. Interesting. Then okay, search fountain, and then use fountain's effect as an extender UC to get Stratos, and then Stratos effect. Okay, now they're gonna do remix, and then use Zalen to pop. And then they're gonna make Loudness War, which is the card from the tuner monster from card effect. Now they're gonna use Poly to use Ejector and Shadow Mist to make Thunder Giant. This is where Thunder becomes really well done. Is it nukes the board? And so in this situation, you drop like chain blocking, however he wants to. So in this situation, he chain blocks like 1, 2, and then he used Ejector as 3. And so it pops the remix. It doesn't really matter. You took a hand trip out. And now, okay, I get shuffled back. And then Shadow Mistress Vion, right? And so he didn't use any normal summons. Now he uses normal summon. Dumps the Mally. And then searches Poly. And then from here, it's just like, for like combo. He can get to DPE, he can get to Sunriser, he can get to. There's not enough that this deck can do at this point, interruptions, to stop Omni, so that at this point he can just OTK them, and go for game. So he gets the Neos, Polys that off. The Sunrise. Then it's good, and this is one of the great things about the new cards. Is like they chain block. They're like Fountain, Ejector, and Furnace do such a great job of chain blocking that it protects your fusion monsters from cards like Bell, Ash, or other interruptions. Something that really helps like if becoming an advanced hero player is learning how to use those cards to chain block, to allow your fusion monster effects to pop off. All right, so he made Wingman, and then in this situation, they got the favorite contact. I think oh yeah, you made in this situation he's like, all right, I'm gonna make the Neo Wingman, and I'm gonna blow up his board, and then OTK. So Wingman, loud, it protects the loudness, but then Shadow Sunriser pop and then OTK. So in that situation, like Omni played through like 2 negates and like interruptions with like clip, and some of like the graveyard effects. But it shows with like if you have the with Fountain, you have like another extender and push, and yeah, he pushed through that and was able to OTK his opponent. He didn't have no droplets, no Ash, no Bell. It was just gas. And like what Omni said, Heroes is so easy to OTK that, especially against a lot of decks that like once they waste their resources, you should have enough resources or make plays that if you want to go Trinity, if you want to do Wake Up, you're still able to OTK your opponent and go for game, and like to go win for game. So let's see the other one. This is the Habakiri. Okay, this is the one, another one. So now I'm gonna show you one Brandon going first. And how I'm doing a really good job of playing around going first Brandon. Oh, talk around Trinity versus Wake Up. Okay, we can do that real quick. So I've leaned, especially with like Wake Up, with the new support. Wake Up is not as needed as it used to be. Remember, we used to do that bullshit of like we pop the Wake Up in our end phase to get to Shadow Mist, to get to Mass Chain. Well, since we have the Mass Hero cards, we don't need to do that anymore. So like now with our cards, Wake Up became like an OTK card, but even in playing, it has become like less useful and like OTK are less necessary because if you're in a winning position, you should have enough resources with your deck, both either uh, make contrast, wingman the OTK, um, and with the requirements, it could be a little bit more difficult to make. Um, in this format, um, was especially if you're playing Crown, Trinity is a better card to like OTK because with 5,000 attack, it attacks 3 times. It can like break the board or attack monsters 3 times to OTK with OTK. Or you can do stuff with Crown where you hit like a monster and attack position with Crown and attack into a Trinity 3 times. So there's much more versatility and also with ease. Like summoning Trinity is easier to do. Also, you can summon Trinity under Dark Law, not Dark Law, Fusion Destiny. So that's what I've seen for me. I've been testing out trying to play like Trinity as like that board breaker card, like in a crunch where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna OTK. I'm going to make Trinity to OTK my opponent, just because of this easier to like, easier to make under Future Destiny, and it has better like usage with like Crown, where you can attack a Crown to OTK for game. So, um I've seen for me that Trinity's like a really good card to use to OTK, and prefer that for OTKing over Wake Up. Wake Up is still not as bad, but there's a lot of setup to like make it to a point where you have to for attack multiple times. You need to have like multiple fusion cards in the graveyard to you have to go through hoops to get to the point where it can attack multiple times to your opponent's monsters. Alright, I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna show an example of first against Brandon and kind of playing around some of the hand traps and still ending on a pretty good board. It's branded. So Stratos and then Ejector. And that got Ash. So that didn't matter. You got Blaze Man. You summon out Polly. And also it's cool with Blaze Man too, because not with Blaze Man it's easier to make the Inferno Rage because you have another different attribute target, different than Light and Dark. So you, here the match chain, you can dodge. And make cross. A Shadow Miss. So they chose to nib here in this middle part. But then see, Omni still has like at this point it's kind of like what you already got your resources, so he's able to get furnace, shuffle back a card, draw extra card. That's crazy, Omni. And then just Poly to make EPE. And do Poly again to make Matt. And this is why double Poly it's not bad, because there's multiple ways now to get to poly. So like, okay, so he ate, let's see, Aluber, droplets. But in this situation, he plays Atomic, but you really could. One of the things that I learned with the deck is he has favorite contact here, so there's a pivot. Well, I'll show the play first, and I'll show what I would have done. Um, so I'll be on. He makes favorite contact, shuffle them motherfuckers back, and then make Wingman the pop. Cool. So he played through that. So in that situation, if I was like our deck list doesn't have Atomic, one of the things you could do with, so he did droplets. He has Branded Fusion as his only card. Another play you would have done, what I would have done is I would have done favorite contact. I would have shuffled the Dark Law and the Dust Crow to make the other contrast hero. And then when knowing that he only has Branded Fusion as a play, I would do Branded Fusion, use that contrast hero to negate that Branded Fusion. And then if you want to, you could use that Mash Chain on the other negated contrast hero to make Dark Law. But that's something that I've started doing. If my Dark Law gets negated, and I use contrast here, I use favorite contact to shuffle it back to make the other contrast hero. And then I'll just, if I have another dark monster or that contrast hero, it does. But not everyone's playing Atomic. I gotta make it better. I gotta make it relevant for the deck, unless they want to play Atomic. You can just negate Branded Fusion with the contrast hero and just make Dark Law again. So that's a big right. I don't want that bootleg Iron Man. You can just there's a play, if you don't want to play double Dark Law, you can always use favorite contact to shuffle back the Dark Law to make contrast hero, and then you can just use one of the contrast heroes to make Dark Law. But again, an example of with the new support in gas, you're able to like play through interruption. Like he played through 3 hand traps and still ended on a hell of a, he played through like 3 hand traps, droplets, and still and his opponent still couldn't do shit. That's how good the deck can be with like the gas is like they can throw a lot at you. And unless they're playing like a floodgate, you can play through that shit. So just wanted to show that. I think I have one more. I just want to see if it's still anything different with this deck. This build. Not really. What I can do is show some of like, Omni made a guide today around some of the combos with heroes about what Fountain can do to play around Droll. So I can show or like some of the hand traps. So I can show that real quick for you. I can see what Fountain can do. But again, next session, before I go into that, does anybody have any questions about the replays that we saw, or like how, with certain situations, how heroes handle against certain meta decks, or in general, maybe like non-engine suggestions or non-engine cards to play with heroes? Someone type in real quick. It's up to you. I think with Ecall, Ejector is a better card. I mean, to get Ejector. Rhoda, it's good like to get Vion as a starter if you want to, or Fountain. I still play Rhoda. I still like that versatility of searching any of the warrior cards. And now with the mask hero cards, it's a bit better. Um, so I don't think it's like you have to choose one or the other. I think if you would prefer e-call, because ejector is like a better extender, while like yeah, like versatility, like, and again versatility. That's why I like Rhoda. I think Rhoda now is a little bit more manageable to play than it was before. Just because you can basically search a couple of level 4 monsters that will either extend or help you start your play. So I don't think it's like terrible. If you're saying like if you're limited on like what to cut, e-call, but if you have the space, I will play Rhoda. Yeah, and the best one is like well between Foolish and Rhoda. Foolish is the better one. It doesn't require a normal summon. So like 'cause you can jump Shadow Mist and then get whatever you want, Ejector or you like any other card. So um I so it's just like so Foolish would be the better of like the versatile like non-engine require I mean engine starters. That's not hero related. But if you have the space, Rhoda is still fine to play. Let's go. Quickly hero guy. Okay. So I'm gonna show you something like what Rhoda can do under Droll. So this is Hero Lives. He does Stratos. He gets impermed. It's like, oh damn. Then he does like Fountain Play, make Dugaris. And then you can like send both of them away. You can send back Stratos. And then you can do Dugaris. The only thing he makes a good point is like you are locked. That's the only downside of this is that if you use Dugaris, you can't get into Fountain, not Fountain, you can't get to Furnace, Crusader, or Inferno Devicer. So your hand gotta be really fucking good to play to get to some other cards. Um, because you're locked out of like Polymath Chain, another Searcher, and your Neos. Now they made a good point. Like Degar is like your only play. Like if you want to play this, this is more of like you got no other options, and you play it. And so you get the Wingman. Oh, and that's also the beauty of like this deck too. Thunder Giant becomes so the Miracle Fusion for Thunder Giant because you have multiple ways to get the Poly and Mass Chain in Contrast Heroes. Um, I it Thunder Giant's like ability to help you search further is so good. I literally used Thunder Giant like when I was playing against Mr. Rugi and I saw they had like Super Poly, Book of Eclipse, and I think another spell Board Breaker and like another spell no, it was like Book of Eclipse, Super Poly, Book of Eclipse. I was like, I used Thunder Giant to pivot my plays to Reborn of Stratos to get to like, uh, but Destiny like to get to like Denier and Dark Angel. So like really cool with like few with like the Thunder Giant play where you can use Thunder Giant to pivot to get you to Stratos to help you search whatever hero monster you want to. So he really showed a good play of like the ability of using Thunder Giant to allow you to get to Stratos multiple times to get to your plays. Now, Musa, for your question, I personally you could if you want to, but with the amount of like with the deck building of here, especially with 50 for me, you have so many additional like starters or extenders, I don't. I prefer not to play it just because, like, for me, Cross Crusader, Devicer, and like Furnace are so good to use and help you build more resilience to get to your hero board. I don't want to lose out of those because there's gonna be certain hands where like you're gonna need those cards to make plays, and I don't want to lock myself out from using them. But like Omni said, like if you, I feel like if we have Verte, I will play Dugaris because turning Verte, because then it's like Verte and Dugaris. I mean, Dugaris and a body to Verte to get to DP would be so nice. But beyond that, I'm just like, Dugar's really major value is to help you play around a 1-for-1 hand trip if your hand is terrible. And more likely than not, especially for me with my plays, I open up enough injure requirements or extenders to enable me to push through an interruption. So I don't see like Dugar is worth it with this deck. Well, we have so many extenders and pushes to play through hand traps. Oh, if they ban Verte, I will play that. If they unban it, I will play that shit. That will open up a lot of visibility opportunity to play some of like non-hero extra deck cards, but you can always end on a pretty good board. Let's see, where's the example around roll ejector fountain. I find one to show where you like did like I got, okay, this is the one, Stratos, search Vion. They draw you here. You normal summon Vion. You get the fountain. And then in phase, in the next turn, you can do like Mass Chain into Dark Law. And then voila. So there's a draw here. This is a nice one that Ugaris. You reborn back the Aqua Dolphin, you rip the Mally. If you want to be cute with it, pop a card, see what their hand is, and then make Mally, and then you get in on Mass Chain. But again, this would be so much better with Verte, because you could just like convert Verte, the Dugaris, and Aqua Dolphin like DPE, and then you could just like dump what a Neos in Denier and make a play. So I still, it's just to show the versatility now with like heroes where you can make rank 4 plays. I don't think like the Garrus is necessary for the deck at this time. Um because you have so many other options to make plays. Alright. Ba, 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 ba. And that's it for some of the replays. Um Is there anything else you wanted to? That's kind of mainly it. The only other thing I could show is if you want me to show you like my evil hero. I can show you like my evil hero combo if I open up Hero Lives with like Mally of what I'll do with the Aqua Dolphin Rip. I can show you that if you want to see that. But also I'm open to anything else I want to discuss. I think I touched the main parts of what I want to discuss for the presentation. Okay, I'll shoot that combo real quick. I want to do it in EDO Pro. Let's see real quick. I mean, you could, but I'm being realistic. I think in this format, Dark Law by itself ain't gonna do as much. I don't think Dugaris is like that. If I felt like underdraw Dark Law could cook by itself, I would be like sure. I think you need multiple cards to play around these decks underdraw to survive against all of these decks. And I don't think like Dugaris is worth the flex spot. for that position. I think with Fountain now, there's multiple ways to get to Dark Law that I would just use it for a different spot.
One is Baguska, not Dugaris.
But Goose, my bad. I'm so sorry. I mean, you could. Um, it's it's okay. I'll say that. It makes it tough, but these decks, like Cool Tune, the other decks have plays to play. I think like Doomsday is fine. Sky Striker, no. Branded, maybe it could do something. So it can survive. I think for certain matchups, it can do a decent job. And for some, they have some plays around it. Especially with like their ability to synchro. Like Cool Tune can do some stuff with the graveyard effects. The bounce. The card. So I would say Baguska is like, it could do something. It's not gonna like really, with every matchup, it's not gonna protect you in a draw. Oh, yes, you do. Bafua, it just depends on the hands that you have. One of the things you could do. Show real quick. Let me put this in the bottom of my deck. Favorite contact, Fusion Destiny. It just depends on the build that you have, where you can give them a couple of draws and still end on a good board. So for example, if you open up Ejector, say you do Hero Lives, and you have like Ejector, you do Hero Lives, and you have maybe like Ejector DPE, they fool you on the Hero Lives, you could just do like Search Stratos, get Fountain, then you could like summon Ejector, get Favorite Contact, and then do stuff like Fusion Destiny, pop Fountain to get to like pop to get to Mass Chain. Or and what I mean, what I'm saying is like with Ejector, you can get with Ejector, you can always get the Favorite Contact. So Ejector will enable you to get the Favorite Contact under Fua. Fusion Destiny will get you the DPE without committing a lot to it. And then if you open up like Furnace or Fountain, you can get to like Mass Chain or Poly without committing a lot. So there are certain cards you can have that can help you get to your plays without committing a lot. Depends on like what your combination of hands are to really get to that board. You can play. So I would say this: if you want to play 2 in the side, it's not a bad decision. I think 2 is not terrible because I would say like if you want to play 3 in total, you're basically saying I want to be able to play around draw. Basically. Like you want to be able to be like, especially if you like Hero Lives or like maybe Vion, you want to be able to, you're basically saying like, or Ferris, it's still one of your best like ways to play around draw and some of the other cards that require the graveyard to activate their effect. So honestly, you could play three Dark Law. I mean, not three Dark Law, three Mass Chains if you like. I have to see it. I want a way to outdraw. In general, like for me, I think I'm just like we play two because with Fountain and Furnace, you'll easily get to your Dark Law. You'll get to Mass Chain. And I wanted to add another like extra side deck spot where I use that Mass Chain for Dark Angel. And so I decided so I use that Mass Chain for cross out. Because I'm playing a bigger build, I wanted to use cross out for like both like Fua and like Joel. So I replaced it with that. And with the Dark Law, I haven't really been in a situation where I needed two Dark Laws, honestly speaking. Especially with Contrast Hero, you have the ability to negate whatever card they have to out the Dark Law. And with the most popular cards being like Droplet or like Fallen the Virtuous, to like stop your plays under Dark Law, they can't use it. Now, if they, for example, use like Super Poly to wipe your board, you can always use Favorite Contact to shuffle back into Dark Law to make another Contrast Hero. And so you can then, say for example, if you have two Mass Chains and you use one and you set the other one, you can like, basically, you can like shuffle back Dark Law, make Contrast Hero, negate a card with Contrast Hero, and then use the Mass Chain to make Dark Law if you choose so. But like, there's ways with like not ways with Favorite Contact and Contrast Hero, you're easily able to like shuffle Dark Law back, and also with Contrast Hero, you're able to make negates. With Contrast Hero in the non-engine of this format, you're able to. It's very rarely that your card will get like negated, or can't play, or you have the ability to like negate whatever card they're gonna use to out the Dark Law. Basically, yeah. You're only playing three Mass Chain as like draw. You just basically say, I want to play around draw. If not, then you can play two. I still like multiple Mass Chain like two, because if you open up one going first, it is a lot easier to make plays. Especially when you're like, you know what, I'm gonna just do Hero Lift, Shadow Mist, make Mass Chain on my Shadow Mist to search, so I don't have to play around draw and then pop off. So I don't think you need like three cards Mass Chains for that, but you can if you want to. But yeah, I don't think with the how easy it is to get to like your Mass Hero cards now, I don't think three is necessary unless you're trying to use it as like a disruptor against hand traps. Alright, so I'm gonna show a play I do with the Evil Hero package. I'm gonna just pick some random bullshit cards though. And yeah, you can do that. And to have more space for side deck stuff. All right. Share my screen. I'm gonna show you the ugly dueling book screen. I'll show you the tutorial. All right, share. So this is like what I do if I have Hero Lives and like a Mally, Shadow Mist, or Denier. I'll say Mally or Shadow Mist. I will do something like this. So I'll use Hero Lives. I will get the Stratos. We do Stratos effect. We search our Evil Assault. I mean Dusted Gold. Then we use a Dusted Gold to get our Evil Assault. Where did you go? There we go. Then I'll do Evil Assault effect, activate, declare. I'll pitch this to grave, the Mally, to summon out the boop 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 boop. Where are you? The prism, if I can find it. There we go. Also, cool thing about Evil Assault too is if they fool you on Evil Assault, you can also just add it to hand to play around Fua and just normal summon it to disable draw as well. That's a cool thing with like Evil Assault is you can like add it to hand if you want to. The Prism. And then also cool thing with this card is like you just dump for cost. So you just dump the Shadow Mist for cost. And then Shadow Mist effect. I'll search out the ejector. And then I will do effect, sending the Aqua Dolphin to grave, summon it. Where is this one? Yeah. And then we'll do declare effect for Ian Shuffle. And so in my version, what I do with Ian Shuffle, I don't go for Stratos. I just go Ian Shuffle, shuffle to the back to deck, and then I summon out the Blaze Man. And in Blaze Man, I search Poly. And then in this situation here, I will do the effect of Ian Shuffle. Shuffling back the Aqua Dolphin and then like the Shadow Mist to draw a card. Ooh, wrote up. And then I would, in this point, it depends. You could just do like the Prism and then either Shadows or Blaze Man to make Infernal Devicer. Then I would declare with Infernal Devicer, showing Aqua Neos, and then I'll get Neos and Aqua Dolphin. And then you just do like Poly here, and then you just go Grave, Hiss here, and then we'll get to the Wingman. You kind of do the same combo stuff where you do Wingman, get you to add the hand favorite contact, then activate the effect, send a grave, summon out Sunrise effect, get the Miracle Fusion. So at this point, this is where I'll do Aqua Dolphin. I'll normal summon it, and then I'll normal summon the Aqua Dolphin and then activate the effect. So with the effect of Sunriser, this is 31. So beyond maybe Mitsu, the Amine, you should have enough attack boost to rip a card from hand. So at this point, you can like see their hand and see what they're going through. If they nib here, it's not really a big deal because you'll just use Miracle Fusion to make Thunder Giant, Reborn the Stratos, and get to your like Mask Hero cards. Let's say like if they do nothing and you just see like hand traps or like you can see Super Poly, or other boards, you can just like pivot from this position. But then you can, at this point, if they have nothing, you can always use Mally. So banish this. Summon out the Mally. Then you can like send these to grave. because it's a warrior. Cross Crusader, bring back the Mali. And then you can like blah 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 blah. Cross Crusader, declare the effect of Cross Crusader, declare, go to grave, and then you can get the what's it called? Escrow. And then at this point, it just kind of like I will send this to grave, Cross Crusader, and this to grave for the Wonder Driver. And you can do like Claire, the Mali, the last Mali to banish. Oh, went back from deck, but to basically banish. Banish and summon. Get poly out, set that poly. Set it, activate it. Go to grave. Go to grave for DPE. And then you can activate Crow's effect. And this is a cool thing with the Evil Hero stuff. You can use the Evil Hero card. Once they're used, you can just use them for like material for the other card for like maybe like Dust Crow or Vion. And then so you don't have to use your Elemental Hero cards. And then you do that, you get Furnace. And then in this situation, you can do Declare. I get the Mash Chain. And then I will dump the Furnace to grave. Because in this situation, I'm going to use the Mash Chain. Either however you want to do this, you can use the Mash Chain, the grave for the Crow to make the Dark Law. And then you can make the Miracle Fusion, banishing the Crow and Furnace to make the blah 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 Contrast Hero. So you still with that way you can look at their hand, rip a card, and then still be able to end on the full board with favorite contact set. So that's kind of like the general gist of like the way I would go. And then if I wanted to like pivot to like the Destiny hero cards like Dark Angel, I would more likely use like the Miracle Fusion to banish like the Neos and Blames Man, bring out Stratos. And then I'll use Stratos to search Denier. I'll make Cross Crusader to get the Dark Angel. And then make DPE through that line of play. And then end on DPE Dark Angel too. So it's just up to you what you want to do with the cards to be versatile in your plays. But at that point, when you do like Aqua Dolphin, Sunriser, and Devicer, you can look at their hand and then make a pivot with the Miracle Fusion to decide what you want to make to help you get to the floodgate of choice of the board you want to make. Yeah, I think one of the big benefits to help advance your plays is to know how to use Thunder Giant to extend or play through interruptions. Because the ability to use Thunder Giant Reborn effect on Stratos can be very beneficial for you, and it allows you to pivot your plays. Because sometimes you don't need cons. Some decks you just like I don't need Dark Law. I just need to make Dark Angel and pivot. So I think one thing to learn definitely is how to use Thunder Giant, and also too just like one of the things I learned like started playing more is like I have rarely used Vion. I've used it like once. Kind of like Omni said, you can use Vion as like your last normal summon to make a push. But like if you go through everything, especially with like the mask hero cards, like you can basically get to your poly of mask chain without ever touching the Vion. So that's like one of the beauties of this deck is before we were so choke holding, like the Vision Hero engine had us in a chokehold, and now we can just like pivot, use other cards to get us where we need to go. So I really love that versatility where I don't feel like I have to go a certain way to get to my plays. With the hands that you have, you can decide where do you want to go with your plays to get to the end board. But that's really all I had to have for the talk. I mean, not really much to add with like the new support. I think it helps. I think if you want to do well at a locals or a regional to get an invite, I think Heroes in a pretty good spot to do pretty good in those spaces. If you are like really proficient at the deck, I can see people go X2 with the deck, and maybe if it's your deck X1 to like at a regional event. Um, I think Dark Law is really good this format. I think the hero board is really good. The only thing is gonna really be like you still struggle with like Super Poly if they have Lava Golem is like it is it's gonna suck. But I mean you have more options around Fua and like Parelia to play under it. Even certain things like I've played through like Fua Parelia. I've even played through Retaliating Sea because you got the contrast hero. So like you have a lot more options to play around certain non-engine that used to threaten us. So like if you know the deck pretty well, you could do pretty well at like especially at your locals and at a regional event. But that's it. Oh, but I'm open to any questions or any other want to talk about with the hero deck this format. Appreciate it. No, it's a lot of fun playing hero. Like fun again. It's a lot of fun to play. Once you know like you can build it multiple ways, and there's multiple ways to get to your plays. So it's really fun to experiment different ways to get to how you want to go with the end board. So that is actually a lot really fun to play this time around, now in this current format.
We can talk about you're taking the deck to Nats. Like,
Oh yeah. I'm gonna take Heroes and Nats. I said if I get an invite at a regional and I get Fountain, I will go to Nats, and I did. Surprisingly, I got X. Not surprisingly, I got X2. I got 14th at a regional, 3 Fountain with Heroes. Just a miracle and a dream. And now we got Fountain, so I'm kind of like, why not? I don't care to. Well, the goal is to do day two. If I get to day two, that'd be great. So I just wanted to see how far I can go with Heroes in this format. I do feel like Heroes, for me, I feel like I have a decent chance with this deck. Um, just because I've been to a couple of YCSs before with Heroes when it was like pretty decently rogue, and I've seen like a lot of people don't play against good hero players, and so I was like, they don't know where the hand trap, especially now with this current build of a deck. I feel like I have a really good chance to like go to day two. So I'm choosing to try out this build of heroes for Venats. Especially with like the new Chaos Origin. It's not really meta warping, where I don't really have to prep as much for the new card beyond like the new Chaos Ritual cards. I feel very comfortable like going into the Nationals.
until everybody starts adding spear mode, because another towers deck. Love to see it.
That is, I'm playing spear. I think spear mode. People are playing spear mode. I've been able to people play spear mode, like Brandon player. I think spear mode will be played a lot more. Or lava golems potentially. But I don't. But I only seen a couple. Like, I've seen Brandon, but only Brandon because like they have the ability not to need their normal summon. I could be wrong for some other decks, but I feel like they need their normal summon to like extend further.
I'm
Like Mitsuno, Brandon for sure. I think it just kind of depends on their hand or other decks if they can push through or not. The most decks play like two or Solemn. I mean, I've seen play like Lava Golem because they see a lot of decks don't end on three, so they want more versatility. But with like Spear Mode, a lot of decks do end on like three board breaker. Like I guess Doomsday or Elf Note, they might lean into Raw Spear Mode.
yeah.
But if you also, huh?
No, I was gonna say yeah. I think my thing with Nats is that because it's so close from when Glorious Origins drops, um, you kind of really have no idea what to prep for beyond what is already being played.
That's true. But I don't know if it's like anything like the certain other decks can play. I can look into maybe OCG, but like unless there's stuff from there that's like meta warping like crazy, I don't think the meta will change from now to post Chaos Origin beyond maybe like that ritual deck, and then maybe some tech cards people will play. Or and I don't know that people like the Blitzkrieg, the chess deck that's in that deck might I don't know how that there's gonna be something like glitchy than that. So I think it'll have to be like I'll have to look into like the ritual deck and then like that Blitz like chess deck and kind of like maybe have an idea how they play.
Yeah, I mean Blitzkrieg is just basically Ryzeal Detonator, but from hand, the deck.
Got you. But yeah, I don't see like I still think yeah, but beyond that, since they're the end deck, oh fine. But beyond that, I think the format will be kind of the same unless people start comparing like blend. I would think like the format will make change if like people start mixing like some of the engines together and stuff. Um, but I don't see like the decks that are like relevant now changing as much post Chaos Origin. But that's like what a month away, so we'll just see how the meta changes, and I can pivot from there.
Yeah, yeah. End of the month. Yeah, I got to do the stream for it. I'm not looking forward to it.
So,
But yeah, I think I mean the next thing we're doing for Hero is like that the giant panel stream that we're still working on, or I'm still working on. But Blester's here, BJ's gonna be part of it, Omni's gonna be part of it. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions on like what you want to see, the rough idea essentially is that we're gonna go over Omni Hero, Neos, and Destiny Hero with Beyond the Brave, and go from there. But yeah, if there's any specific things you'd like to see, feel free to let me know or let them know.
I think yeah, we'll do with the panel is we'll cover overview of everything we know so far. So like Omni Hero will have like the Clay Guardian, the Karibo, um, the Destiny, the same thing. Like what with the Clay Guardian and Omni Hero, the Karibo and favorite hero stuff for like the Neos deck, Patient deck, and then like favorite hero for the Omni Hero build, and then go over like the pure Destiny Hero deck for post Brave and the Bold.
But yeah, but if there's no other questions, I think we're good to go.
All right, coolio.